The bright lights in the room hurt Veltar's eyes. The alien creature sat in the metal chair, trying not to move too much. Every movement made the wounds on his blue skin burn with pain. His gills opened and closed slowly as he breathed the thick air that humans and other species needed. Across the table sat Thane Moore, a tall being with gray skin and 4 arms. He worked for the Galactic Council as an investigator. His job was to listen to complaints from species that lost wars. Today was just another day for him, another defeated alien with stories about human cruelty. "State your name and species for the record," Thane Moore said in a bored voice. His fingers moved over a data pad without looking up. "I am Veltar of the Merdai Collective. I was a communication officer on the warship Deep Current." The alien's voice was soft and wet, like sounds made underwater. Thane Moore finally looked up. The Merdai looked terrible. Burns covered his arms and chest. One of his large black eyes was swollen shut. The biolite patches on his neck and shoulders barely glowed. Most species would be dead with these injuries. "You wish to file a complaint against human military forces. What is the nature of your claim?" Thane Moore asked the same question he had asked hundreds of times before. Veltar was quiet for a long moment. His good eye stared at something far away. When he spoke, his voice shook. "They are not like other species. Not like us. Not like you. When their friends die, they become something else. Something terrible." Thane Moore sighed. "Another alien complaining about human battle tactics. Humans were known to be aggressive, but they followed the rules of war. They did not kill civilians or torture prisoners. Their weapons were not banned by council law. Sir, if you have evidence of human war crimes, please present it. Otherwise, I must inform you that aggressive tactics alone do not—" "You do not understand," Veltar interrupted, his voice rising. The patches on his neck began to glow brighter with fear. "I watched them fight. I watched what they became. It was not tactics. It was not weapons. It was something much worse." The investigator put down his data pad. In all his years, he had never seen an alien so frightened when talking about humans. Usually, defeated species were angry or sad. This one looked terrified. "Tell me what happened," Thane Moore said, his voice gentler now. Veltar closed his eyes and began to speak. 3 months ago, we met humans for the first time. It was supposed to be peaceful. We thought they were like other young species, weak, easy to control. We were so wrong." The alien's hand shook as he remembered. "Their ship came to Kepler 442b, one of our border worlds. It was a small ship with only a few dozen crew members. Our leaders thought it would be simple to make them do what we wanted." "What happened during first contact?" Thane Moore asked. "Their commander was named Do Hyun. He was polite and calm. He brought gifts and spoke our language poorly but with respect. With him came 3 others. Hana, who tried to learn our words. Wu Jin, who helped our sick and So Young, who wanted to know about our culture." Veltar opened his eyes and looked directly at the investigator. "I liked them. They were curious about everything. Hana spent hours learning our songs. Wu Jin helped our children when they were hurt. They were kind. But something went wrong," Thane Moore guessed. "The Vorthak Empire had already made us their allies. They told us humans were dangerous and needed to be stopped before they grew too strong. We did not want to fight, but we had no choice. The Vorthak said they would destroy our worlds if we did not help." The alien's biolights flickered with shame. "During the peace ceremony, Vorthak killers hiding among our people attacked the humans. Hana died first. A plasma blade went through her chest. She died instantly." Veltar's voice became a whisper. Wu Jin tried to save her. He covered her body with his own and called for help. The killer shot him too. So Young was badly hurt trying to protect the others. "And the human commander?" Thane Moore asked. "Do Hyun." Veltar stopped talking for a moment. His whole body shivered. I watched him change. At first he was like any other creature when hurt, shocked, afraid, sad. But then something happened to his eyes. They became empty. Not empty of feeling, but empty of everything except one thing. What thing? Rage. Pure burning rage like I have never seen. He moved faster than any human should be able to move. He had only a small knife, but he killed all 6 Vorthak assassins in less than a minute. He did not make a sound while he did it. Thane Moore wrote notes on his pad. This sounded like a normal response to an attack. Many species fought harder when angry. That is when I first understood, Veltar continued. Humans do not just get angry when their friends die. They become something else entirely. Something that should not exist. The investigator looked up. What do you mean? After he killed the assassins, Do-hyun knelt beside Hana's body. He touched her face very gently and said something in their language. Then he stood up and looked at all of us, Mirdai and Vorthak alike. I will never forget that look. Veltar's remaining eye was wide with remembered terror. He was not looking at us like we were enemies. He was looking at us like we were already dead. Like our deaths were as certain as the rising of the sun, and somehow I knew he was right. What happened next? He called for help on his communication device. When he spoke to his people, his voice was completely calm. He told them what happened and asked them to come quickly, but I could hear something in his voice that made my blood cold. What did you hear? Love. Terrible, powerful love for his dead friend. And I realized that this love was about to kill us all. Thanemore sat back in his chair. He had heard many war stories, but something about this one felt different. The alien was not lying. His biosigns showed he was telling the truth, but the story seemed impossible. You said this was just the beginning, the investigator said. Yes, Veltar whispered. The real horror came when the other humans arrived. When they saw their dead friends, they all changed. Every single one of them. And then I learned what humans call war. 3 months earlier, the human ship Soul's Pride moved slowly through space toward Kepler 442b. Commander Do-hyun stood on the bridge, watching the blue-green planet grow larger on the screen. This was his first time leading a first contact mission, and he wanted everything to go perfectly. Sir, we are getting signals from the planet's surface, said Lieutenant Taeho from his station. The Mirdai are welcoming us. They want to meet on the largest island. Do-hyun nodded. Good. Hana, are you ready? Hana looked up from her language studies. She was young for a diplomat, only 25, but she had a gift for learning alien languages. I think so, sir. Their language is beautiful. It sounds like singing underwater. What about medical supplies? Do-hyun asked. Woojin checked his equipment one more time. All ready, Commander. I have medicine for both human and Mirdai biology, just in case someone gets hurt. So Young was reading reports about Mirdai culture on her datapad. Sir, they seem very peaceful. They love art and music. They have not fought a war in over 200 years. Do-hyun smiled. Perfect. This should be easy then. Remember, we are here to make friends, not enemies. The Mirdai could be valuable allies against the Vorthak Empire. The landing shuttle flew down through thick clouds toward the meeting place. The island was covered with strange blue trees and crystal formations that sang in the wind. It was beautiful, but also alien in a way that made the humans feel very far from home. The Mirdai were waiting on the beach. There were about 20 of them, standing in the shallow water. Their blue skin shimmered in the sunlight, and the biolight patches on their bodies glowed with different colors. They were taller than humans and moved with grace like dancers. One of them stepped forward. This was war singer Kathara, the leader of this group. Despite her title, she seemed peaceful. Her light patches glowed soft green, which Hana had learned meant friendliness. Welcome, sky swimmers, Kathara said in heavily accented but understandable human language. We greet you with joy. Do-hyun bowed slightly as So Young had taught him. We thank you for meeting with us. We come in peace, seeking friendship between our peoples. The ceremony began well. The humans gave gifts of art and music from Earth. The Mirdai shared their songs and showed the humans how to make their crystal formations sing. Hana was delighted as she learned new words. Woojin helped a young Mirdai who had a small injury. So Young recorded everything, fascinated by this new culture. Veltar was there too, though neither side knew how important he would become later. He was young for his species, curious about everything. He liked watching Hana try to pronounce Mirdai words. She made funny mistakes that made everyone laugh, but she never gave up trying. Your friend learns quickly, Veltar told Do-hyun during a quiet moment. Hana has always been good with languages, Do-hyun replied. She speaks 5 human languages perfectly. She says every new language is like discovering a new way to think. That is wise, Veltar said. We believe that too. But hidden among the Mirdai were others. 6 Vorthak warriors had disguised themselves using biosuits that made them look like Mirdai. They had been waiting for this moment for days. The Vorthak Empire had decided that humans were too dangerous to be allowed to spread through the galaxy. The attack came during the gift exchange. Hana was showing a group of young Mirdai how to use a human music player when the first assassin struck. A plasma blade, invisible until it was turned on, appeared right through her chest. Hana looked down at the blade with surprise. She did not scream or cry out. She just looked confused, like she could not understand what was happening to her. Then she fell forward into the shallow water and the water around her turned red. Hana. Wujin rushed toward her, not thinking about his own safety. He pulled her out of the water and tried to stop the bleeding, but the blade had gone completely through her heart. There was nothing he could do. A second assassin shot Wujin in the back while he knelt beside Hana's body. The medic fell on top of his friend, still trying to save her even as he died. So Young screamed and tried to run, but a third assassin caught her. His blade cut deep into her side and she collapsed on the beach. Do-hyun had been talking with Cathara when the attack started. For a moment he could not understand what he was seeing. His friends were dying and he did not know why. The peaceful meeting had become a nightmare in seconds. Then he saw the assassins removing their disguises, revealing their true Vorthak forms underneath. He understood. This had been a trap from the beginning. Veltar watched Do-hyun's face change. The human commander had been smiling just moments before, talking about his hopes for peace between their species. Now his face showed no expression at all. His eyes became cold and empty, but somehow also filled with terrible purpose. Do-hyun moved toward the nearest assassin. He had only a small combat knife on his belt. Weapons had been kept to a minimum for the peace meeting. The Vorthak warrior had a plasma rifle and full battle armor. It should have been no contest, but Do-hyun moved like no human should be able to move. He was faster than Veltar's eyes could follow. One moment he was 5 meters away from the assassin. The next moment his knife was in the warrior's throat. The second assassin turned his weapon toward Do-hyun, but the human was already gone, appearing behind him like a shadow. Another knife strike and the second warrior fell. The remaining 4 assassins tried to work together, but it did not matter. Do-hyun killed them all in less than a minute. He did not make a sound while he fought. He did not show anger or fear. He just killed them, one by one, with the calm precision of a machine. When it was over, Do-hyun knelt beside Hana's body. Very gently, he closed her eyes and brushed wet hair from her face. "I'm sorry," he whispered to her in Korean. "I should have protected you better." Then he stood up and looked at all the Murdai on the beach. Veltar felt his heart stop beating when those human eyes looked at him. They were not the eyes of a civilized being anymore. They were the eyes of something ancient and terrible that had been sleeping inside the human until his friends died. Do-hyun pulled out his communication device and called his ship. When he spoke, his voice was perfectly calm and controlled. "This is Do-hyun. Hana and Wujin are dead. So Young is badly wounded. The Vorthak used the Murdai as cover for an assassination attempt. Request immediate backup and medical support." "Understood, sir," came the reply. "Strike Team Alpha is on the way." Do-hyun put away the device and looked at the Murdai again. Cathara was trying to explain that they had not known about the Vorthak, but Do-hyun did not seem to hear her. "You will answer for this," he said quietly. "All of you." Veltar felt something cold run through his body. The human was not threatening them. He was simply stating a fact, like saying the sun would rise tomorrow. And somehow Veltar knew it was true. The human reinforcements arrived 30 minutes later. Veltar watched from behind the crystal formations as 4 shuttles landed on the beach. From each shuttle came humans in black combat armor, moving with deadly purpose. Strike Team Alpha was led by Captain Tae-ho, a man who had served with Do-hyun for 5 years. When he saw Hana's body lying in the red-stained water, he stopped walking. His face went through the same change that Veltar had seen in Do-hyun. The anger came first, then something colder and more dangerous. "Sir?" Tae-ho asked Do-hyun. "Vorthak assassins using Murdai disguises. Hana and Wujin are gone. So Young will live if we get her to medical fast enough." Tae-ho nodded and turned to his team. There was Mi-young, a small woman who specialized in explosives. Dong-wook, a sniper who never missed his target. Hyunji, who could fight hand-to-hand with creatures twice her size. "You heard the commander," Tae-ho said. "Our people are dead. Make the enemy pay for it." The other humans said nothing, but Veltar saw their faces change too. It was like watching masks fall away to reveal something wild and fierce underneath. These were not the same species that had come in peace just hours before. Mi-young was the first to speak. "Sir, Murdai ships are coming up from underwater bases. Looks like a full war fleet." Do-hyun looked at the ocean where lights were moving beneath the waves. They made their choice when they helped the Vorthak. Show them what happens when humans lose family. The battle began when Murdai warriors rose from the water, riding creatures that looked like giant seahorses. They had weapons that shot streams of superheated water and electricity. Their war song filled the air, a sound that was supposed to frighten enemies, but the humans did not look frightened. They looked hungry. Yunji ran straight toward the largest group of Murdai warriors. She had no fear of their numbers or their songs. When the first warrior shot at her with his water weapon, she rolled under it and came up with her combat knife in his throat. Veltar watched in horror as she fought 5 warriors at once. She moved like a dancer, but every move ended with an enemy dying. When one of them hit her hard enough to break her ribs, she just smiled and kept fighting. Dongwook found high ground on top of the crystal formations. From there, he began picking off Murdai commanders with his rifle. But what made Veltar's skin crawl was that Dongwook was singing while he killed. An old Korean song about missing home, sung in a clear, beautiful voice while death flowed from his weapon. Mi Young was the most terrifying of all. When a group of Murdai warriors tried to surround her, she pulled out explosive charges and set them off with herself still in the blast zone. The explosion should have killed her, but she walked out of the smoke and fire, her armor cracked and bleeding, still fighting. "Why won't they die?" one of the Murdai warriors screamed. Veltar could have answered him. The humans were not trying to just win the battle. They were trying to make the enemy pay for killing their friends. Death was not something they feared anymore. It was something they were willing to trade for revenge. More Murdai ships rose from the deep ocean. War singer Cathara called for them to retreat, saying this was madness, but the humans had already called for more help. The sky filled with human dropships. General Seokjin arrived with 200 Marines. When he saw the bodies of Hana and Wu Jin, he stood quiet for a long moment. Then he turned to his troops. "Those 2 humans came here in peace," he said in a voice that carried across the battlefield. "They wanted to make friends with aliens who had never seen our kind before. They died trying to help others." The Marines listened in perfect silence. "Today, we show this galaxy what happens when you murder humans who come in peace. Today, we make sure no alien ever makes this mistake again." The Marines raised their weapons and began to advance. But they were not just walking toward the enemy. They were singing the same song that Dongwook had been singing, all of them together, their voices growing stronger as more enemies appeared. Veltar had never seen anything like it. Human soldiers singing beautiful, sad songs about home and family, while they killed everything in their path. It was like watching art and horror become the same thing. Colonel Yejin led the 7th Marine Battalion in an attack on the underwater cities. Her soldiers used special equipment to breathe underwater, something no other species had ever tried in battle against the Murdai. "We are creatures of air and land," she told her troops over the radio. "But today we will follow our enemies into their own domain and beat them there too." The battle underwater was even more brutal than the one on the surface. Murdai warriors fought desperately to protect their homes, but the humans fought like they had nothing to lose, because they did not. They had already lost the 2 things that mattered most to them, their friends who had died trying to make peace. Lieutenant Hyunwoo's squad was wiped out by a Vorthak ambush in the deep trenches. When the other humans found him, he was the only one left alive, surrounded by the bodies of his friends. Most creatures would have been broken by such a loss. Hyunwoo just looked at the bodies for a moment, then picked up his weapon and walked into the dark water alone. For 3 days, he hunted the Vorthak warriors who had killed his squad. He used their own bioluminescent signals against them, pretending to be one of them to get close. He killed them one by one, and each time he did, he spoke the name of one of his dead friends. Captain Juwon and her engineering team found a way to turn the planet itself into a weapon. They used the natural earthquake systems to collapse Murdai cities that were built too close to fault lines. But while they did this work, tears ran down their faces. "I'm sorry," Juwon whispered as she watched a city fall into the deep ocean. "But you helped them kill our family." The most frightening thing about the humans was not their weapons or their tactics. It was how they could switch between deadly rage and perfect discipline. One moment they were killing machines that felt no fear. The next moment they were organized soldiers following complex battle plans. Veltar saw Sangwook continue fighting for 10 minutes with wounds that should have killed him instantly. The human had plasma burns across his chest and a broken arm, but he kept moving forward, kept shooting, kept protecting his wounded friends. When he finally fell, the other humans did not leave his body. They carried him with them as they continued the attack, because no human would be left behind, not even in death. Yu-Jin walked through a storm of plasma fire to reach wounded Mirdai civilians who were trapped in a collapsed building. Her armor was melting from the heat, but she kept going until she had saved all of them. Why? One of the civilians asked her.
Why save us when we are your enemies?
Because you are not soldiers, Yu-Jin answered simply.
And because Hana would have wanted me to save you. That was when Veltar began to understand the most terrifying truth about humans.
They were not monsters who enjoyed killing. They were creatures who loved so deeply that they would become monsters to protect what they loved. Their friends were dead, so they had become death itself. But they still saved enemies who were not responsible for the killing. They still sang beautiful songs while they fought. They still cried for the cities they destroyed. They were not evil. They were something much more frightening than evil. They were righteous. The war had been going on for 2 weeks when Veltar realized his people were losing. Not because they lacked weapons or numbers, but because they could not understand what they were fighting against. More human ships arrived every day. Each one carried soldiers who had heard about Hana and Wu-Jin, humans who had never met the dead diplomats but felt their loss like a personal wound. The human military seemed to share one giant heart, and that heart was broken and angry. General Seok-jin established a command base on the largest island. Veltar watched from hiding as human soldiers worked day and night to build fortifications and landing zones. They never stopped moving, never rested for long. It was like they were afraid that if they stopped, they might remember that some of their friends were never coming home. The humans had a way of fighting that made no sense to other species. When Mirdai forces attacked human positions, the humans would sometimes retreat, but it was never because they were afraid or beaten. They retreated to draw the enemy into traps, or to protect civilians, or to get better positions for counterattacks. Colonel Ye-jin had become a legend among both human and Mirdai forces. Her Marines had taken 3 underwater cities, something that should have been impossible for air-breathing creatures, but she did not celebrate these victories. Instead, she spent hours each night writing letters to the families of humans who had died in the battles. Every death must be remembered, she told her officers. Every name must be spoken. We do not fight for glory. We fight so that Hana and Wu-Jin did not die for nothing. The most frightening human was still Lieutenant Hyun-woo. After killing the Vorthak warriors who had murdered his squad, he had not returned to the human base. Instead, he continued hunting enemy forces alone in the deep ocean trenches. Mirdai warriors began to call him the Ghost Singer, because he would appear from the darkness, kill his targets and disappear again. But before he killed them, he would sing the names of his dead squadmates in a voice that echoed through the water like a funeral song. Captain Ju-won and her engineers had turned the ocean floor into a battlefield. They used sound waves to confuse Mirdai navigation systems. They created artificial currents that carried their ships where they wanted to go. They even learned to speak to the sea creatures that the Mirdai used as allies, convincing some of them to switch sides. How do they learn so fast? Cathara asked Veltar during one of their strategy meetings. We have lived in these waters for thousands of years, but they understand them better than we do after just 2 weeks. Veltar had been watching the humans closely. They learn fast because they have to. Every day they do not win is another day that Hana and Wu-Jin are still dead and unavenged. The war singer looked confused. But the dead cannot be brought back. What does revenge accomplish? I do not think they want to bring them back, Veltar said slowly. I think they want to make sure that no other human diplomats die the way their friends died.
They are not fighting for the past.
They are fighting for the future. This was when Veltar began to understand something important about human warfare. They did not fight just to win battles or control territory. They fought to send messages to the entire galaxy about what would happen to anyone who hurt humans who came in peace. The humans demonstrated this when they captured a Vorthak command ship. Instead of just taking the ship, they broadcast the interrogation of the Vorthak commander across the entire star system. The alien admitted that the assassination had been planned from the beginning, that the Mirdai had been forced to help under threat of destruction. Let every species in the galaxy hear this, General Seok-jin said during the broadcast. The Vorthak Empire murdered humans who came in peace. They used another species as tools for their treachery. This is what we do to creatures who make such choices. What happened next became known as the cleansing of the deep. Human forces did not just defeat the Vorthak fleet, they erased it completely. Not a single Vorthak ship escaped the system. Not a single warrior survived to return home with news of what had happened. But the humans recorded everything and sent the recordings to the Vorthak homeworlds. The message was clear. If you kill humans who come in peace, we will find you. We will hunt you. We will erase you so completely that other species will forget you ever existed. Dae-un and Kyung-ho worked with Captain Ju-wan to create weapons that used the planet's own energy systems. They found ways to focus volcanic heat into beams that could cut through the strongest alien armor. They turned the magnetic field into a trap that disabled enemy electronics. We are not trying to conquer this world, Dae-un explained to a captured Merdai officer. We are trying to make it remember what happened here, so that in 1,000 years, when other species look at this place, they will know that humans died here trying to make peace, and that those deaths were answered. The psychological effect on Merdai forces was devastating. They had been told that humans were just another aggressive species, not much different from the Vorthak. But humans fought like no other species they had ever encountered. When Merdai warriors were wounded, humans would sometimes stop fighting to give them medical help. When Merdai civilians were in danger, human soldiers would risk their lives to save them. But when Merdai forces killed humans, the response was swift and total. They are not cruel, one captured war singer told Veltar. They are something worse than cruel. They are fair. Jin-Soo had personally killed over 200 enemy warriors, but after each battle, he would help rebuild damaged civilian areas. He worked alongside Merdai families to repair their homes and schools. He taught their children how to swim in areas that had been made dangerous by the war. Why do you help us? A Merdai mother asked him. When we helped kill your friends. Because you are not the ones who chose war, Jin-Soo replied. And because my friends would have wanted your children to be safe. The most disturbing thing was how the humans treated their own dead. Every human who died in battle was recovered, no matter how dangerous the mission. Their bodies were sent home to Earth with full military honors. But first, other human soldiers would gather around the body and each one would tell a story about the person who had died. Nara had lost her entire squad in the first major battle, but she refused to be sent home. Instead, she worked 18 hours a day to establish trade and diplomatic contacts with Merdai civilians who wanted peace. I cannot bring my squad back, she told General Seok-jin when he offered to transfer her to safer duties. But I can make sure that other humans never have to die the way they did. The turning point came when a group of young Merdai warriors tried to surrender, but Vorthak officers forced them back into battle at gunpoint. Human forces saw this happening and did something that shocked everyone on the battlefield. They stopped attacking the Merdai and focused all their fire on the Vorthak officers. Instead, Taeho's voice came over the communication channels, speaking in broken but understandable Merdai. Merdai warriors, lay down your weapons and swim away. We do not want to kill those who do not choose to fight. When the Vorthak officers were dead, the young Merdai warriors did exactly what Taeho had suggested. They dropped their weapons and swam away from the battle. Why? Kethara asked during the temporary ceasefire that followed. Why spare warriors who might fight you again tomorrow? Do-hyun looked at her with those same cold eyes that had frightened Veltar weeks before. But now there was something else in them, a deep sadness. Because Hana believed that most beings wanted peace if they were given the choice. She died trying to prove that. If we kill creatures who surrender, we make her death meaningless. That night, more than half the Merdai fleet surrendered. The war was effectively over, though it would take several more days for all the fighting to stop. Veltar realized that the humans had won not because they were stronger or more advanced, but because they had turned their love for their dead friends into a weapon that could cut through any defense. They had made the entire galaxy remember two humans who had come in peace and died trying to build bridges between species, and they had made sure that anyone who met humans in the future would know exactly what would happen if they chose violence instead of friendship. The humans had not just won a war. They had rewritten the rules of how the galaxy would treat their species forever. The war ended 3 days after the mass surrender of the Merdai fleet. Veltar watched from a hospital ship as human and Merdai medical teams worked together to treat the wounded from both sides. It was strange to see the same humans who had fought like demons now working carefully to save the lives of their former enemies. General Seok-jin held the surrender ceremony on the beach where Hana and Woojin had died. It was not a celebration. Instead, it felt like a funeral that everyone had to attend. Do-hyun stood where his friends had fallen, looking out at the ocean that had turned red with blood from both species. Next to him was a simple memorial made from the singing crystals that Hana had loved so much. When the wind blew through them, they made soft music that sounded like crying. "The war is over," Do-hyun said to the gathered crowd of humans and Mirdai. "But the reasons for the war are not forgotten. 2 humans came here in peace. They died because creatures they trusted allowed killers to hide among them. This must never happen again." Kithara stepped forward. The war singer looked much older than she had a month ago. The bio-light patches on her skin were dim with exhaustion and shame. "We accept full responsibility for what happened to your people," she said in perfect human language. "We will pay whatever price you demand." Do-hyun was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that surprised everyone, including the other humans. "We do not want payment. We want partnership." The Mirdai leaders looked confused. They had expected the humans to demand tribute or territory or slaves. That was what most species did when they won wars. "You were forced into this war by the Vorthak Empire," Do-hyun continued. "They threatened to destroy your worlds if you did not help them kill our diplomats. We understand that you had no real choice." Colonel Yejin stepped forward with a data pad. "These are the records we recovered from Vorthak ships. They show that the Empire has been using the same tactics against dozens of species throughout this region of the galaxy, forcing them to fight wars they do not want, threatening their families if they refuse." General Seok-jin took the data pad and handed it to Kethara. "The Vorthak Empire ends now. We are going to hunt down every ship, every base, every world that serves their cause. But we cannot do it alone. We need allies who know this part of the galaxy." Veltar felt his hearts beating faster. The humans were not just offering peace. They were offering partnership against the Empire that had forced the Mirdai into war in the first place. "Why would you trust us?" asked another Mirdai leader. "We helped kill your friends. We fought against you for weeks." Do-hyun looked at the memorial crystals as they sang in the wind. Because Hana and Woojin believed that most creatures wanted peace if they were given the chance to choose it freely. They died for that belief. If we refused to trust anyone ever again, then they died for nothing. The partnership that formed that day changed everything. Mirdai forces joined human fleets in hunting down Vorthak bases throughout the sector. They shared star charts and intelligence about enemy movements. They fought together against the species that had manipulated them both. But what impressed Veltar most was how the humans treated their new allies. They did not act like conquerors or masters. They acted like the diplomats that Hana and Woojin had been, respectful, curious, eager to learn. Jinsu spent 3 months teaching Mirdai children how to swim safely in waters that had been polluted by the war. He learned their songs and games. He told them stories about Earth and showed them pictures of human children playing in Earth's oceans. "Are all humans like you?" one young Mirdai asked him. "No," Jinsu said honestly. "Some humans are cruel or selfish, just like some members of your species. But most humans try to be kind when they can. The ones who came here first were some of our best people. That is why we fought so hard when they died." Nara established the first permanent human embassy on a Mirdai world. She worked to create trade agreements that would benefit both species. But she also made sure that every human who came to Mirdai space knew the story of Hana and Woojin. "Remember why we are here," she would tell new diplomats. "Remember what happens when first contact goes wrong. Remember that every alien you meet might be someone else's Hana or Woojin." The most powerful moment came when Do-hyun met with the families of Mirdai warriors who had died in the war. He went to each family personally, alone and unarmed, to offer his condolences. "I am sorry for your loss," he told each family. "Your warriors died because of choices made by others, not because of anything they did wrong. They fought bravely to protect their people. I respect them, even though they were my enemies." Many of the families had expected to hate the human commander who had killed so many of their people. Instead, they found themselves comforting him, because they could see that he was genuinely sad about every death the war had caused. Veltar was present when Do-hyun visited the family of Korthes, a young warrior who had died in the first underwater battle. The warrior's mother asked Do-hyun why he had come. "Because every death in war matters," Do-hyun said. "Your son died because the Vorthak forced your people to choose between helping them or watching your worlds burn. He died protecting his people, just like my friends died trying to make peace. Both of those deaths should be remembered with honor. The old female's light patches flickered with surprise and gratitude. You speak like a poet, not a warrior. Hana was the poet among us, Do-hyun replied. I am just trying to speak the way she would have wanted me to speak. But the humans did not just focus on healing and diplomacy. They also made sure that the galaxy would remember what had happened at Kepler 442b. They built monuments on 50 worlds telling the story of the war. They made sure that every species in the local region knew exactly what would happen if they chose to murder human diplomats. The Vorthak Empire learned this lesson in the most direct way possible. Human and Meridai forces worked together to hunt down every Vorthak base and ship they could find. The empire that had seemed unstoppable just months before was completely destroyed within a year. Captain Ju Wan led the mission that captured the Vorthak homeworld. When the Empire's leaders were brought before a galactic tribunal, she was the one who read the charges against them. You murdered humans who came in peace, she said. You forced other species to become tools for your cruelty. You created wars that did not need to happen. You caused the deaths of thousands of innocent beings from dozens of species. The Vorthak Emperor tried to argue that this was just how galactic politics worked, that every species did what was necessary to survive and expand. No, Ju Wan said simply. Most species try to find ways to live together. You chose to make survival impossible for everyone else. That choice has consequences. The tribunal sentenced the Vorthak leaders to life imprisonment on a prison world. Their empire was dissolved, and their former slave worlds were given independence. The humans made sure that each of these worlds received the resources they needed to rebuild. But the most important change was in how other species viewed humanity. Before the war, humans had been seen as just another young, aggressive species trying to expand their territory. After the war, they were seen as something much more complex and dangerous. They are not like other species, Veltar heard one alien diplomat say. They do not fight for resources or territory. They fight for ideas. They fight for their dead. They fight for creatures they have never met, because they believe those creatures deserve protection. Is that good or bad? Asked another diplomat. I do not know, was the reply. But I know that I never want to be their enemy. The humans established new protocols for first contact situations. Every diplomatic mission now included multiple backup teams, advanced security measures, and instant communication with human military forces. They made it clear that anyone who attacked human diplomats would face the full military might of Earth and all its allies. But they also increased their diplomatic efforts. More human ships went out to meet new species. More translation teams worked to learn alien languages. More cultural experts studied ways to build understanding between different types of life. We will not let fear stop us from reaching out to others, Do-hyun said during a speech at the new diplomatic academy on Earth. Hana and Woo-jin believed that the galaxy could be a place where different species lived together in peace. They died for that belief. We honor them by continuing to believe it too. Veltar was invited to speak at the same academy. He told the human students about what it had been like to watch their species transform from peaceful diplomats into something that nightmares feared. Your friends died trying to build bridges, he told them. But their deaths built a different kind of bridge, one made of respect and fear. Other species will meet with you now because they know what happens if they choose violence instead of friendship. One student asked him if he thought the war had been worth it. Veltar thought for a long time before answering. 2 good people died. Thousands of warriors from both sides died. Entire cities were destroyed. Was all that suffering worth it? I cannot answer that question. But I can tell you this because of what happened. No other species will ever make the same mistake that mine did. Your friends' deaths were not meaningless. They changed the galaxy forever.